xubnaha guurtida xubnaha guddiga joogtada ee golaha guurtida wafdigan Maraykanka oo ka socda hay'adaha qaxootiga ayaa waxa hogaaminaya agaasimaha guud ee wasaaradda dibadejinta mudane maxamed Marta Qaalib. haddaba daawadayaal daawasho wanaagsan kuna soo dhawaada barnaamijkii.
who is the chairman of the group, and you have Sheikh Ahmed Sheikh Noor, deputy chairman. You have Sultan Isa, the Sultan of Sultan Abdi, all of them are Sheikh Haddad. They're all members of they're all members of the different communities of Somaliland, and they wish to welcome you. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.
ويسود ويننا سومالنا ويسود ويننا عمق فرني قدوة ويسود ويننا.
Chairman and CFI welcome you with open hands, with open hearts.
كنت أعطانا كل مرة يهود وبني أخوتي ومن جالسين إذا كان تسوي الشيء.
I'll postpone my speech, but this is just a welcome, and I would like to ask you to take up the speech.
I will be brief. On behalf of our entire U.S. delegation, I want to thank you so much for the generous hospitality.
anigoo ku hadlaya magaca dhammaan wafdiga Maraykanka aad iyo aad baan idinku mahadnaqayaa soo dhaweynta gacmaha furan ee soo dhaweysay.
It is truly overwhelming and it humbles us. We also will take home the great spirit of African and Somali particular hospitality.
aad iyo aad ayaan u qaadaynaa fariintaas gacmaha furan ee soo dhaweysay iyo soo shaqeynta ku jiro qalbi furan.
Our delegation has a broad mandate and it's very difficult to learn much in 2 weeks.
aad iyo aad bay hawsha aanu qabanaynaa u dhib badan tahay in aayad lagu fahmaana waqti qaadanaysaa 2 week wax ka badan.
And we do not want to appear superficial in our visit, as if we don't have time to go in depth to any issues.
waxaanan ka sii afeeganaynaa inaanan ahayn degdegan hawsha u wadnaa inaan helin qormaynan wixii qabano laakiin aan waqtiga siino.
We will keep in mind everything we have learned, and we will follow up with more learning and more corresponding with our partners here.
waxaanu ku ballan qaadaynaa inaan barashadayda sii kordhino aan baranayno xaaladaha Somaliland.
Our delegation from the U.S. consists of representatives like myself and Ms. Lance of the non-governmental organization community.
waftigeygu wuxuu ka kooban yahay hay'ado badan oo isugu jira aniga iyo Ms. Rami waxaan ka soconaa hay'adaha u dooda arrimaha hay'adaha aan dowliga ahayn xagga Maraykanka.
Our NGO organizations are focused on issues of refugees, migrants, and returnees.
hay'adaha ay waxay qaabilsan yihiin arrimaha qaxootiga la celinayo iyo kuwa la soo dejinayo Maraykanka iyo sharciyadooda.
In doing our jobs, we work with, we advocate to the U.S. Congress, both our House and our Senate. We ask them to be more generous to refugees and returnees.
marka shaqadayadaas ayaa waxa ay ku leedahay la shaqeyno labada guri ee Maraykanka ah anagoo had iyo jeer doodayna xuquuqdooda inay u noqdaan dad naxariis u haya qaxootiga.
As you know, the issues that our Senate and House must deal with are very complex and very many.
sida ogtihiin baa ama la socotaan labadeeda guri hawlaha qabtaan waa hawlo aad iyo aad u adag.
So we decided the best way to convince them to pay more attention to refugee issues was to bring some of the staff to East Africa to see for themselves.
Si aan markaa hawshooda ugu fududayno waxaan isla garanay in shaqaalaha la shaqeeya maalin kasta aan keenno halkan si ay u arkaan indhahooda waxyaalaha dowladooda inaan leenahay wax kala qabto qaxootiga.
So we were very fortunate that staff members of both the House and the Senate and both political parties agreed to come on our delegation.
aad baan nasiib ugu helay markaa inaan helno maanta labadii guriba dadka socda shaqaalka socda iyo dowladda guriga saddexaad intuba inay nala socdaan maanta.
Two of the staff members are with us today, one from the House of Representatives, one from the Senate. The others are in Tanzania on the other part.
labada maanta halka nagala socdaa midna guriga guurtida ayay ka socotaan midna guriga baarlamaanka labada kalena waxay ku maqan yihiin Tanzania.
We were also very pleased that a representative from the U.S. State Department, the Refugee Bureau, agreed to accompany us on the delegation. We work very closely with the State Department on our issues.
mid kaloo nasiibku yeelana waxay noqotay wasaaradda arrimaha dibadda qayb ay qaabilsan arrimaha qaxootiga oo iyaguna maanta nala socda oo arrinta iyaguna ka shaqeynaya.
And we are also pleased that UNHCR staff from Geneva and from this area is accompanying us and we have learned a great deal. We will remember everything we have learned, and we return home. We will continue to do our jobs stronger and with much. Again, we thank you, and we will be happy to have a dialogue with you on our particular issues that we have seen and your concerns.
كوضع هذا الضوء وكوضع هذا الله أحمها كله بله حاولها يجا بتيجي كله بله ما دام بتيجي ما يتصرف ما تنتهي.
And I work with one member of Congress. But it's the prestigious House, and it's a real honor to meet with this many representatives in the Senate and to meet with the chair, or what do we call it? The chairman of the Senate. Also, the Senate is considered the senior leadership in our country and the one that has all the wisdom and the one that has a lot of experience. And I get the feeling from it being, oh, I'm sorry.
لكن الآن وإلى صعوبة وحشة تكون الكوتي ومراكنة وقول يكوبية هاي لكن واحد كل جالس يكون له نظام فضل يها مراكنة ويوحى عنه لأن أنت ليشكو أما قابلتهم هاي آل وغفر رياض مراكنة أي حد كان صفر رياض آل بنا غفر حسن هاي إن تعرف أخي ما غفر رياض وجيب ما هكذا.
We've been here, and the feeling and the spirit that I get from all of you rebuilding Somaliland, it's very, very impressive, and I plan to go back and inform my congressman of all your efforts.
congressman aan la shaqeeyo inaan uga waramo sida lagu howlantihiin dibdhiskiina iyo gacmo-funaanka Canada.
My senator is a new senator. They call him a freshman, and he is serving for 6 years. Each senator is elected for 6 years. He has been appointed to as a liaison officer to the UN and is very interested in the reorganization.
waxaan senator kan la shaqeeyo uu noqdo wakiil xagga UN kala shaqeeya arrimaha nabadda.
He also serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee of the United States Senate and is very interested in the reintegration and return of refugees.
waxaan kaloo la shaqeeyaa wasaaradda arrimaha dibadda ee Maraykanka xagga arrimaha qaxootiga iyo soo celintiisa anigana wax badan baa iga kordhay tirsan Somaliland Yimid waan qaadi doonaa fariinta waan gaarsiin doonaa sidii loo qaban.
My name is Bronwyn Lance, and I work for the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. I work as a government relations person.
magacayga Bronwyn Lance baa la yiraahdaa waxaan la shaqeeyaa hay'ad aan
Repeat what everyone else has said.
ma rabo inaan ku celiyo hadaladii dadkii hore yiraahdeen.
But I do want to reiterate how grateful we are to have the opportunity to meet with you.
waxaan si aad iyo aad u rabaa inaan nasiibkan aan ku yeelanay inaan idinla kulano mar labaad idinka mahadnaqo iyo gacmo furaantana igu soo dhaweeyo.
We're very honored for this opportunity.
aad iyo aad baan ugu faraxsanahay inaan nasiib u yeelanay inaan idinla kulano.
And it's going to be very useful for us when we return to the States
aad iyo aad baan wax noogu taraysaa markaan noqono Maraykanka.
to have had the opportunity to see the peace that reigns here in Somaliland. And we thank you again for your warm hospitality to us.
aad iyo aad baan ugu faraxsanahay saad noo soo dhaweyseen iyo gacmo furnaanta xaggooda intaas
with the U.S. Department of State, which is the equivalent of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I want to add, being I guess the last speaker, my thanks to the others and to reiterate what an honor it is to be received by all of you today.
magacayga Margaret Makasi baa la yiraahdaa waxa aan anagu ka tirsanay wasaaradda arrimaha dibadda ee Maraykanka saaxiibada iyo qofkii ugu dambeeyay hadlana waa noqonaya laakiin waxaan ku mahadnaqayaa soo dhaweynta iyo chance
I know from my work with refugees that this is a region that has had perhaps more than its share of turmoil over the last years.
aqoontan u leeyahay la shaqeynta qaxootiga waxa aan ogahay gobolkan inuu aad iyo aad u la yeeyo qaxootiga lagu lahaa dhibaatooyinkiisana qayb weyn ka qaatay.
My first visit to Hargeisa was in 1986 when you were hosting refugees from Ethiopia.
markii ugu horeysay Hargeisa waxay ahayd 86 markii ay qaxootiga reer Ethiopia halka ku haysay inay ku daryeeli jirtay.
And in the intervening years, almost all of those people have been able to regain their home. And I know that from all we have been told, the measure of efforts to create that peace and stability.
socdaalkaygan wararka aan maqlaynaana nabadda maanta u noqotay xalka Somaliland waxa aanu dadku aad noogu sheegaan inay tahay idinku inaad keenteen nabadda maanta.
And it is very heartening to see the Hargeisa beginning to recover, to see people moving freely in the streets at all hours, and to hear from everyone the spirit of reconciliation and moving forward.
aad baan aniga farxad igu tahay in Hargeisa ay maanta noloshii dib u soo noqonayso nabadii wada socodkii waqti doonaba qofku uu nabad ku soconayo iyo ku soconayo.
And while we know that refugee issues are perhaps only one or two of the many issues that you are dealing with, they are a window for a lot of the international community on what is happening. So while it seems that we may be focusing on a very small group of your people and focusing perhaps particularly on women, we do want to hear from you, if possible, how you see these issues in the larger context that you are dealing with, so that we can better understand how we can continue to be of assistance.
mufti Maraykanka oo intaas soo qaybood u jira oo noo yimaada maanta lagu haysto.
I said my thanks and my introduction but I want to reiterate here. Today is the first time that we have such a delegation from the U.S. in such an institute.
sida aad ku ballan qaadeena oo dadka sideed kiilo bilaabatay markii halkan laga qaxay dadka ayay ku bilaabatay dibad.
The organization of the House of Elders started voluntarily in 1988 for the people exodus from this part to the people.
markaa dadka markii uu jaray ciidamo yara soo galay waxna dhinteen waxna dhaawacmeen annaga guursiga markaa dadkii soo urusay.
Due to the exodus of the mass citizens and death of the insurgents of Western, the duty has taken the role of bringing the people together in the remote areas.
markaa guurtu halkaasay ku samaysantay ummaddii isu timid ee shaqaysuukii baa iska soo saartay 50 guurtida.
And the first meeting of people in the remote area when they met have unanimously elected 55 members of the duty at that time.
markaa 8 u samaysantay ilaa 8 ilaa maanta nabad bay ku shaqaysantay.
Since the inception in 1988 up to now, the only major mandate they do is to do a peace negotiation. And if you compare to what the international community have done in Mogadishu, this effort, and dignity from them. I just briefed you about the inception of the duty, and as I said, to create the game, that I'll give you in writing in order to avoid the lengthy time that it will require. The elders are the ones who did the self-repatriation of the people in 1991.
Somaliland ayaa qoraalay soo jeeyay mataa markaatiyo beeraha Somaliland leeyihiin waxay beeraha Somaliland goosteen inay dawladoodii ay xalalgeeyeen la soo qoro.
Up to 1991, in the Burqa conference, all the members of the Somaliland community came together and unanimously passed their reclaim of their state that they have had union with in 1960.
markay istuseen dhibaatadii soo martay iyo dhibaatada iminka taagan sidaas ayaan ku nabadgelaynaa ma jirteen wixii dowladooda loo soo
in order to keep the peace of their community.
Somaliland waa la heshiiyey 1990 ayaa qoraalay soo jeeyay mataa markaatiyo beeraha Somaliland leeyihiin waxay beeraha Somaliland goosteen inay dawladoodii ay xalalgeeyeen la soo qoro.
Up to 1991, in the Burqa conference, all the members of the Somaliland community came together and unanimously passed their reclaim of their state that they have had union with in 1960.
markay istuseen dhibaatadii soo martay iyo dhibaatada iminka taagan sidaas ayaan ku nabadgelaynaa ma jirteen wixii dowladooda loo soo
in order to keep the peace of their community, they've realized it after evaluating what's happening in other parts of the former Somalia, that they should be a separate state. Duty have maintained the peace and to recall there has been about 6 internal strifes, and we single-handedly handled in order to bring tranquility among the community.
واحد جدا بيسي ورشدني ولا جدا بيسي أيام النواطق أنت أكثر من مرة أيام قصة وقت تغيرين
And the last one is worth mentioning, which was about 2 years internal strife among the community that has lasted for that period. We brought it back into a peace among the community and even combined the election with the new administration.
How fast are you for the YouTube? Islam شغالين بوطن يا إلي أنت محاضرة أما كل ما نقول الشغل.
This is the nature role of the elders, and they will continue doing it now, tomorrow, and forever.
وحاول نوصل لتفوت الرجال قتلي ويا ترى بدنا أيام حقوق الجنسية أو قصة الرجال الحق
For the first time, in recognition of the minority rights, in the last congressional meeting, we've also included in the Constitution to give their rights within the Constitution, and there, some of them are sitting here today. The first time, members of the council.
وأنا شريت وطا تجي هو المسوق هو شريت والله وراح ويقول واحد اللي يلا كان شيء أنا هذا ما صار.
I don't want to repeat it again and again, but I think I wanted to assure you that this is not going to be the first encounter. We work together and understanding the role of the Guti will obviously not stop involvement there.
شغال أمامك أو شغال تمطع إذا قلت هاي رسم
The peace that we are maintaining, even though it's fragile, we are the one who are still maintaining it, sustaining it. I'll conclude my history speech over there, and now I'll go a little bit on the refugee issue. We also wanted to thank specifically for those our people who are in America, the hospitality they received from the 50th entire march.
الربح يعني ولد الصوات وغير بدون تمديد بيت هاي ما أنت يكون الصوات
I'm glad that you're here, and I think you can witness in your own eyes, looking for a witness, what this is the world state about us.
وحا أصوات تنعوت الإنسان وحاول أفضل
We want to ask you that you don't only keep the information with you, but you also give the others so that it gives us self-responsibility.
وحنوضح يا شخص
Second time I welcome you on behalf of the name of the House of Elders.
هذا تين ضلياشي مريكانكا كتير نقول ضلياشي Somaliland ما نستحق بارنا.
This is the friendship. The members of the Goti consist of constituencies of 6 regions. And we have done it on a basis of justice. If you have come here and you've informed us that you're looking specifically into the refugee issue, we ensure you our cooperation to that specific task. And if I have to point you out,
meeshuu galayay iyo meeshuu ka shaqaynayay iyo meeshuu ku shaqaysanayay iyo wax walba tiyo loo qabtay iyo dadkii kala mid noqon karaan.
I just wanted to warn and give you one of my points towards refugee repatriation. It's good if you are involved in repatriation, but we are also involved in reintegration, and we wanted to see that those who are coming back will come back back to their country where the social services is adequate.
haddii isagoon aqal haysan oo sahay haysan oo waxba haysan oo awood lahayn waddankaagii ku noqon la yidhaahdo hortii horeba dee muxuu uga qaxay waddankiina aan weli wax ku qaban karayn.
The observing camp have nothing on the ground.
waxaan doonaynaa dowladda Maraykanka awood adduunka maanta tii ugu awood roon weeyaan dhinaceega inay wax walba u soo qabato dadkii deesaa meeshiisii ku soo celisaan doonaynaa.
We expect as the only power in the nation, since you are from the US, that you also adequately prepare those who are coming back, or the information you are giving to the others, that they prepare in the absorbing capacity. We thank for what the American government is doing for us, and we will welcome our brothers and detainees in an open heart. I conclude that. Also wanted to say a few things.
What you are that annagu horta Somaliland haddaan in waxaan damaanay in nabadgelyada iyo wax qabsiga iyo wax walba in aan u qabsano yaa ku tala gashanay.
I wanted to reiterate here, the people of Somaliland, without help of anybody, we have committed ourselves to secure everything. And the first thing we started is the peace.
waxaan adduunyada moodaynay ciddii wax qabsatay iyadu wax qabsatay la arkay inay dhaqaaqaysa in wax lala qabtaan moodi jiray.
We thought the international community was supposed to help those who are helping themselves. But now we have realized the international community helps those who destroy themselves. And I've said this because, for example, we are Somaliland. Except God, nobody comes to us. And thank God that our government institution is existing. And we're really planning to go ahead. And even though we are doing all this, we haven't had a tangible results from or support from the U.S. government. And the mess that is in Mogadishu, we hear every day. There are missions going, there are this support, there are this support, there are this support. The only thing that we're going to ask you is to make sure your congressman understands our situation clearly. That is what we are requesting again and again, that you promise us all you can do for us is to pass this message to your congressman. And we will remember for you. Thank you very much.
odayaashii iga horreeyeyna waa mahadnaqeen waxaan laga maarmi karin soo dhoweynta dowladda Somaliland shicibkeeda iyo xukuumaddeeda gabi ahaantoodu qalbi furan iyo gacmo furan baynu ku soo dhaweynaysaa.
I wanted to thank you for what my members have said about it, and I wanted to again and again thank you the openness the Somaliland government, its people have welcomed you, and you said it.
Kahiga waxa qalbi wanaagsan loo ah oo mahad loo ah haddaan dawladda Soomaaliland leenahay saluug baanu ka qabnay wafdi Maraykanka kurbada hadiyo muddada aan dawladnimada dhisanay la sheegay saluug baanu ku jiray.
We were always expecting very less from America since we established our government because they have never paid any attention.
waxaan ku allaaweynaa waftigii innan ay noo soo dirtay wanaagiisa rasmiyanka ah ayaanu ku allaaweynaa wixii aan cadho ahaayeen ugu jiray waftigan wanaagiisoo nagaga baxay.
We will forget for what reservations we had from the U.S. government when we see the message of your delegation.
warka xaqiiqdiisa waxa gayn doona idinkaa gayn doona.
The truth will be passed to you.
kalsoonida haddaa rag miidhan tihiin oo rag miidhan maanta naloo soo diro kalsooni maanu qabnin.
If your delegation were all men, we wouldn't have the confidence.
dhaqan reer nebi aadan maxamediye mactabiye waa walaalo waa aabiye hooyo u dhaawado.
The traditional belief is that the religion of Christ and Muhammad are the two brothers.
dhaqan bay ka siman yihiin.
They've got the same view on tradition.
hadduu rag miidhan yahay wax fudud baa loo qaataa dhoo annagu af Soomaaliga iyaga waa geel jiraanu nidhaahday shirku hadduu boqol nin uu rag yahay.
In our tradition, we say that if the delegation is all men, they are all camel herders.
And
we say that the house can be built from the bottom, and the bottom is due to the mothers, women. And no government can be built without the contribution of children, women, and elders.
sida awgeed waftigiinan macaanida ee haweenka miirana inaan xusuusatay dawladda Maraykanka waftigan wanaagiisaanu ka garanayna.
We can really rethink and say that the U.S. government has now recalled our existence by sending a delegation of all women. That's the thanks part of it.
kana u socotay ee qaxoontigaana waxa ka hadlay jeermaankii iyo Suldaan Cabdiraxmaan baa ka hadlay.
And about the specific task of yours, the chairman and Sultan Abdurrahman have briefed you about it.
haddii saan taabto dunida reer nebi aadan kulba ilaahay qolu hoggaanka ugu dhiibay.
But if I have to touch the Asian history, God usually gives the leadership one society.
Today,
Americans are the leaders of the world. So you have to balance your justice, because if you don't do the justice, then God can take it away that leadership.
caalamka reer nebi aadan meeliba sida u socoto inaa ula socotaan oo idan kale ka jeclaysan baan idin faraynaa golayowi.
We want you to pass this message to your congressman that justice should be served throughout the community equally.
waa fariinde.
That's a message.
kaa u socoteena waxbaa laydin kala qabanayaa qaxontiyada.
We promise you to cooperate with you.
sidii odayaashu u sheegeen aqaluma dhisna.
As my members of the others said, there is no houses constructed here. And we are just starting from the scratch, so we have. But we have a peace for them. And we really ask you this request that you extend a humanitarian aid for their repatriation.
dee laba qawan isma qaado anagu amnigaanu ku xignoonu ku taabnay raashinkiina idinkiya cidii alla kaashataa baan ka sugay.
We have done our part as a partners, and that's the peace. Now you do your parts in supporting them.
soo celintoodana raalli baanu ka nahay.
And we really welcome their repatriation.
halkaana intaasaan ku dhaafay.
And I said that pointed to the refugee issue.
midh baa ay raacayeen.
The last one.
haddii dhulkaa maraysaan waa dhul burburay.
The land you would witness during your travel is a destroyed land.
dad wanaagga ka naxaa jiray beer walba Maraykan buu joogaa Ingiriis buu joogaa.
Through your tour, you will experience people who always don't like peace, and it's not only confined to Somaliland, but you'll find it in the States or in Europe or anywhere those who are against peace.
wax yaroo baydhsanoo nin xumi hal ka soo baxa iyo wax yaroo qaloocan haddaa aragtaan aqlabiyada ka eega dhig.
If you see those who have different views, see the majority and don't judge on those few ones.
nin baahan ama nin aqraadina waa wuxuu baydhin kara hadal shir waxa aragteen midkii soo dhexgeli kara.
There are those who can do it for the sake of, for the sake of their needs.
waxaan idinku soo khatimayaa.
And I conclude this song.
ilaalin Somaliland dowladnimadeeda waa dhisan tahay waanaan idin mahadnaqaynaa xusuus dambe insha Allah waxaan rajaynaynaa idinka oo اعتراف دعي وسيادة أنه اعتراف سنة إلى أنتنا ما أنت نوتي إنه قصور رئيس نوتي ما تنبغي جيني.
The government of Somaliland is there, the institutions are there. We expect after some time, inshallah, with recognition that you, this delegation, will come again while we are really a government and we have a relationship. And we will receive you in that level. We also ask you to help our brothers in Somalia. But I want to remind you that we were two governments who got their independence. We got our independence from the British, and they've got theirs from Italy. For them, the Italians are still supporting them. But our colonial relationship with the British, because of our act during the Union that we were promoting the nationalistic, we have made a mistake to the British, so now he gave us his back. You, the Westerns, including the British, we are all together. So don't show us your bags. We expect you some support in this kind. And I'll tell you something that's beyond your mandate. You are all the government, and our last say would be with His Excellency the President and the ministries involved with your assignment. Our needs can touch a lot of places. The only thing we need, and the most needed area is radio message, radio station. So that you can hear us from the radios. The second major issue is the demobilized militias, and we are trying to keep them confined, but we cannot hold them longer. The general hospital is also weak.
baahida idin wada tilmaami kari maynayno.
We cannot summarize all the needs here.
kolkaa wax aragtaan wafdigiina dambaynu baahida maxaa u baahan tihiin idin nala taataaban doontaan meel adkaa un baa idiin sheegay.
We expect your next delegation will discuss with us in deep after you give this information to your Congress.
Waa mahadsan.
Thank you very much.
Focus on reintegration, which is new for a lot of us. We've been overwhelmed by what we've seen. We have.
Hello. Oh, I see. Sorry. First of all, let me say I'm sorry for being late. We were informed that the meeting was postponed until 12:15. I'm Sean McCarthy. I work with Habitat, and I also wear the focal point hat, focal point for UN agencies in Hargeisa.
Hello, my name is Erasmus Moore. I'm the head of UNICEF in Somaliland.
Should go around this side.
I suggest that
yeah, well, I'm with Ambrado Field Preparation Officer, UNHCR Partners. I am Hassan Ahmed of former OTA.
Red Crescent Society in Somaliland.
Hassan Ahmed of DFID, Department for International Development, former ODA.
We can ask individual agencies to elaborate.
Thank you. Well, I will speak in a very general way. As you know, the situation in the northwest of Somalia is quite different than the rest of the country. Here we have a government in place, we have peace, and we have really a situation which is already in the process of reconstruction and probably redevelopment. However, most of the agencies that are working here are actually working with funds that are intended for humanitarian purposes. And that means that there's almost no funding for to try to get better liaison and collaboration between all of the agencies, exchange of information particularly, so that the efforts and inputs of the agencies would be better utilized, and the products that were produced in not only better relationships and more focused relationships between the agencies, but also we're doing this hand in hand with the government. At the moment there is a task group that's been set up by the government, which is now undertaking with representatives of the international agencies plans for practical interventions in Burao and other parts of the East. Now, the challenges out there are great, of course. So we might have to add to my words.
Thank you very much. Before we go into questions, I would suggest that Dr. Erasmus Moore, as a UNICEF manager, should also elaborate further on the rehabilitation, the reintegration needs, the gaps, the constraints,
Mistakenly suggest that Somaliland is Switzerland. It's not Switzerland. We all know that. But if you take an inventory of the number of UN agencies and international NGOs that are resident here, you may have reason to believe that maybe it's the Switzerland of Somalia. Yeah. There are at least about 7 UN agencies resident here, and well over 10 international NGOs. Last time I took an inventory, it actually was up to 15. Some of them based in Boroma, some used to be based in Erigavo. So the representation is here. And in that sense, I would think that Somaliland needs getting its attention addressed. If you speak for the government, But that had to be done if people were to come back. Yeah. Getting involved in building of schools, health facilities, and what have you. Our experience is that while a lot has been done by way of basic services, and by that we mean schools, health, and basic water services, the quality that is associated with all these is yet to be seriously addressed, and which is what I think we're in the phase now of trying to do better and improve the services that we give, which is not easy, because doing things better, for instance, requires better coordination among the various agencies. And I know that donors are very, very eager to pay for supplies, but they don't pay for people's time to sit together and coordinate efforts, because nothing comes out at the end of the pipeline. But nevertheless, if you wish to improve the product, if you wish to improve what you do, you have to learn how to spend more time talking about what you do. So one of the gaps that may not be readily apparent is this very gap that donors don't like to pay for things that improve quality, if it means coordination and non-tangible aspects. Also, we feel that...
Thank you once again.
Okay, good. Okay. كيف حالك؟ اهلا وسهلا. كيف الناس؟ Well, somebody come over here. Who's the leader of the group?
Right there. Here's the leader. We don't have a
Democratic group. We don't have a leader.
Oh, that's not the movie. That's anarchy.
So, female delegations from the U.S. operate. But I will be happy to
well, please come over here.
No, I'm here.
You're fine there. You come over here. Close to me.
Thank you.
Please.
I'll be happy to say a few words on behalf of the delegates.
Yes, please do.
I'd like to keep it brief. I think we have realized in previous meetings we speak too much and we don't listen enough.
Yeah.
So if I don't cover enough information and you have any questions about our delegation, feel free to ask us afterwards. On behalf of the delegation, we thank you so much for your hospitality. It's a particular honor to be greeted by you, Your Excellency. We thank you for that. The purpose of the delegation is to educate ourselves.
Yes.
Some of us in the non-governmental organization community organized a delegation to bring congressional staffers. We have two with us today, one from our Senate, one from our House. We brought them here to look with their own eyes at refugee and returnee issues in East Africa and in this region. So it's very much an information gathering trip. We hope it will make our work easier, when we return to the United States to advocate on behalf of refugee protection and returnee issues. We were very fortunate that a representative of the U.S. State Department Refugee Bureau, Ms. McKelvey, offered to join us. She facilitates our trip and her expertise helps us. We were also very fortunate that UNHCR staff in Washington, in Geneva, and locally have facilitated our trip as well. We've learned a lot. We really apologize that sometimes it appears to be a very superficial trip. We run into a meeting, we run out of a meeting, we're looking at a lot of things. I can assure you that when we return to the United States, we won't forget it. We will follow up. We will continue to gather information, to continue to learn about these issues. You know how difficult it is to work with a Congress and to make policy. We don't seem to do it as easily as you do it over here. I think we have much to learn about organization, cooperation, but each of us will do the best within our own capacity to keep these issues on the agenda of our organization. When we return very shortly, too shortly, we'll have a lot of information in our heads, and I think speaking on behalf of all of us, we'll have a lot of affection in our hearts for the Somali people.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much for your kind words. I think the main part of your mission is to see the return of refugees, and as you say, as you said, protection, and their return. Well, as far as we are concerned here, they need no protection. They neither from the government nor from their people. The people who have left this country, of this society, the people who have built Hargeisa, who have built Borho, which you will see very soon, I hope tomorrow, and Berbera, Borama, all these places. They are people whom we need to come back to help us rebuild our country. They are not people who are coming back to a hostile society or to a hostile government. It's the hostile government that they left and made them to leave, but now they will be coming back, to the fold of their people. What they need protection from is to return to a country where they might become displaced people. They will be exchanging. That's the danger. They will be. The danger is that they might be exchanging because of the wealth, and the facilities God has endowed your country. You don't realize, you don't know what tragedy it is for a person to be a displaced person in his own country. It's a horrible future, and that is their main danger. What we need to do is to organize a reabsorption of these people into the community, into the society. To organize for them a resettlement program. Before, people talk. I was very, very happy the last letter from the from the State Department. For the first time, the lexicon of UNHR, included reintegration. That word, reintegration. It was repatriation. People used to talk about, but never reintegration. That's the most important thing. We have gone to a great extent, to institute, this nation, to reinstitute the institutions of government, to establish the rule of law, in this country. For 4 years while I was in office here, we have started almost from a base, which it is very, very difficult for me to describe to people like you, who have never seen a country engulfed, by anarchy. By the way, this is the president of our parliament. He has already met. Security and for his safety, on the strength of his armed militia. It was to gradually conquer that anarchy, and that chaos, and bring some form, of organization of a society that is ruled, by a common accepted criteria of law, and private militia. Young boys, who were all of school, from intermediate schools, secondary schools. Some, finished their secondary schools and really for university. They've lost their, it's what we call really, what you call, after the war, used to call in Europe and North America, a lost generation. There was a lost generation here, And originally our plan was to establish vocational training centers, for these young boys, for these young men. Disarm them as a militia, put them in these schools, teach them a trade, and then, let them participate, in the reconstruction of the country. It would have been, it would have been impossible to release them, to release them into the street, because then they will continue their practice, living by the, by the strength of their guns. We have to have some way of removing them from there, and then giving them some living or some occupation. That was our idea, from the international community. We cannot complain about the international community. We cannot complain about the Americans especially. They have even sent to a force of 25,000 people, 26,000 Marines, to put, to establish law and order here, But all that has been mismanaged. They have never come here, they were in Mogadishu. Here we have done it single-handedly. There has been no help was coming, So the only way we can absorb these people and remove them from the streets, and arrest the trend, of lawlessness here that are. There's no threat to us, from our neighbors in Ethiopia, or Djibouti, or across the small, the narrow waters of the Caribbean from the Arabs. There's no external. Only way, since we didn't get the assistance and the expertise we needed to train these people and teach them trade, we had to keep them out of trouble by calling them, And in fact, they say that if you have, if there way you can take it, you trust it to him and ask him to keep it for you. So now they are the guardians of the stability, and the security of the country. But they are very good. Anyway, as far as you are concerned, these people who are coming back, the country is worth about 100 of them, in things like that. But they are still doing the job, and courageously and selflessly. They are still doing the job, but the country is still full of mines. The town of Pura, which you will see today, which have been destroyed first by the dictator himself, and then later on by a civil war amongst us. That is sort of service. Anyway, we have to prepare, we have to be mindful. Because these people, they come, and the vulnerable people to these mines, are usually the livestock and the children. At least the elder people, can manage themselves. They have made this little baths, in the and they follow these baths. They don't. But a child plays. If they like to play, so it's the children who are the victims usually. The children who are the victims and the livestock, which is more important to us. Sometimes by the livestock and children are the most important. We have to be mindful. We have to re-establish the general hospital. The reason that is that because it was the hospital for more cases. The big cases are usually transported to Bur'a, which was the main hospital. That hospital is completely ruined, it's absolutely ruined. So we have to rebuild the infrastructure. We have to rebuild the schools and hospitals, and we have to find some shelter, for these people. Originally, after we have, I don't know whether you have been to the camp, in Warshia, they have converted their refugee camp into a very flourishing trading center. Because these people were traders, ever time immemorial, they have been dealing with Arabs, Indians, and were engaged in trade for such a long time. They are really very talented. I'm saying that because I'm not selling your life, but it is really true. When you go into the streets, Somali people, especially Somalilanders, our proximity, to the Gulf of Aden, to the subcontinent, across the Indian Ocean. We were using Indian currency. Even 5 years after India, became independent, we were using the Indian rupee. During the colonialism, it came under the Indian office, because there was a man here who was fighting the British, for over 20 years, and the colonial office was not able to manage that war, that local war, here. So the Indian office, took over, and they were running Somaliland for, the best part of the 70 years, the British were here. I think, and it was replaced, by the East African shilling in 1951 or 52. 1951, it was replaced, So these people are very, the people here in Somaliland are extending the principles, deficit financing is very tricky, and it didn't work for us. As we had over it would, it's a very, very tricky thing, the Americans are the experts, and we don't know how you manage your $1 trillion deficit. But anyway, you do. Yeah, I think the wealth of the country, you know, the prestige, the superpower, image, that helped a great deal. I think it was Chancellor but anyway, I hope that the message you will be taking back is that the threat to the returning refugees, especially as far as Somaliland is concerned, is not so much the antagonism of the people they are going to rejoin, or the government that is going to accept them back. As far as that is, there is no threat from to them, from these quarters, but the threat from them, is the lack of resources. The lack of reintegrating, the resources to reintegrate them, into the society, to give them the wherewithal, to recommence their life, to pick up the threads, of their shattered lives, and there are people who have got the know-how and the talent, to do that. They don't need much, but they need a start, a little push, from inertia, into movement. That's all they need. Well, but if there's any questions you would like to ask us, will be. By the way, before I go out of that, there was a certain very truthful remark about you in one of our papers today. Unfortunately, my Minister of Interior, came to me very furious, and he said, I must put these buggers, in jail. I said, no, these are Americans. They are used to salam fasting, of free general. I think they have gone a little bit beyond the form of the delicacies, of expression, and I think they've gone beyond that, but it's something which is perhaps, the cultural differences rather than animosity or hate, I remember when in 1985, Queen Princess Anne, came to express, how the princess was embarrassed, by witnessing a scene where men were being castrated. But as far as we're concerned, this is a cultural thing, a cultural difference. No. So I hope that you forgive me, that it gasped, from our gather this morning. But I do much worse than that myself. Any questions you would like to put? There are several members of the government here, who are, I think, going to be involved with the repatriation, of the refugees. There's the Minister of Finance, and of course the President of the Assembly is no newt, was it? He's no newt,
This morning we had a joke about this.
Yeah. But we've got the Minister of Foreign Affairs here, Minister of Interior. So if there's any questions, we will all, not me, but I'm sure if you want to put any questions to them, they will answer you.
I think all of the people with whom we've met have been very open with us about the challenges of reintegrating those who are yet to come from Ethiopia and the challenges of recovery within this Hargeisa and the other cities that we're going to see. So no one has shrunk from telling us what the problems are and what the challenges are on that. I don't think we can speak for the refugees, and we certainly shouldn't. We had an opportunity to visit Hartashek and to see the market that I think that you were talking about. Yes, it's quite an amazing place. People told us that if we wanted anything at all, we could place an order and it would arrive within 5 days. Unfortunately, our trip is so quick, we didn't have an opportunity to test the
veracity. But it is true. It is true. Not, I mean, you can't order a cabinet.
And unless we just selected poorly, universally they were anxious to come home and anxious to come quickly and to come together. And so we want everybody to, all of our friends to come together. They were a little impatient, I think, that registration was going. It was just starting. They really wanted to go as soon as possible. So we hope that people can come quickly and the absorption capacity can be increased.
As I said, I hope that it will be much better organized. We have been arguing, with UNHCR, for quite some time, about this. And eventually we have, I think we have decided to make a pilot scheme and repatriate about 10,000 people and see what lessons we can learn, from that, Asma will tell us how useful these are. Their lessons were very useful to us. But unfortunately, we are not the people.
Earlier, before the 10,000 pilot project, was the projects for the community.
Yeah.
For example, the Hargeisa water system in, not going to remember exactly what year it was, but early on when that was an obvious need as people were coming into Hargeisa, the United States provided some funding to UNICEF for a company called Turnkey to start the core part of the system, certainly not the entire system. And we've been providing funding through UNHCR for schools and clinics, things that benefit the entire community, that help with reintegration, but maybe don't respond to the individual needs of the individual returnee. And there are two areas, I think, to focus on, the individuals and their needs, but also the absorption capacity of the community.
I'm sure the funds provided. You know, I was in direct contacts, you know, with the State Department, you know, and the United Nations, you know, and all that. But it would be advisable and I think worthwhile, you know, if we are associated, our Ministry of Rehabilitation, we are associated in the planning section, and in this reintegration and the repatriation of these refugees. I think what we contribute would be something really worthwhile. You know, we have had the experience, we have the feeling, you know, that we are the people, you know, who are going to live with these people in the past. Two of my ministers have just returned, you know, from Holland. We know where they visited, you know, on a similar problem of refugees who are living, you know, in Netherlands. You know, for a significant sum, I think there was $80,000 or $75,000. I remember. I don't know everything at the top of my fingers. So I think, you know, if we at least knew what was happening, it will help, you know, it will help, you know, and I think the resources you provide, you know, would be used more effectively, you know.
I believe one of them already has a question. First of all, to my left, this is Bronwyn Lance from the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. Like myself, she's an NGO representative. You know Ms. Margaret McKelvey from the State Department's Bureau that deals with refugees. Ms. Ann Crowther, she's from our U.S. Senate. She works for one of the senators on the Republican side. And Ms. Stephanie Peters from our House of Representatives. She works for a House member on the Democrat side. So we're a bipartisan, bicameral delegation.
Very good.
And actually, I just wanted to make a comment.
I'm sorry, I forget that you don't know Simone. Simone Wilkins from UNHCR Geneva has very graciously accompanied us.
This is my first trip to Africa, and it won't be my last. And this trip was focused on looking at refugee issues, and I'm very happy that I selected to come to Ethiopia and Somaliland to see repatriation, because I think when you actually see it, we have this phrase that a picture paints 1,000 words. I think being here speaks volumes, and I've learned so much. One thing that I think is very important as we look at repatriation and, as you say, reintegration, is that it's important, your opening comments on there's no problem, they are protected here. That is a very important message that I have received. After you go through fleeing, I cannot imagine, you know, the decision or trying to get the information and the comfort of security to come back. And so the peace that I felt here, it is a message and it's opened a window to me, and a message that I would take back to my congressman. I work on the Judiciary Committee, which particularly deals with refugee numbers for resettlement. At the same time, members of Congress work on, you know, all issues and vote on different bills for foreign relations and, you know, also UN funding and those type of issues, and also working with our State Department. So I have really gotten an education, and more importantly, the warmth that I felt from the Somaliland people, Ethiopian people, on handling these refugee issues in the past and working in this final repatriation, reintegration phase. I just want to tell you I
do that, you know, and also I hope that, you know, the State Department won't fall against you. The fact that you have called us Somaliland. But you know, we really, we are very glad. I mean, this is the sort of thing, we were really thirsty for. We have been ostracized, by the international presses. The news of Somalia and what is happening here have not been related at all, to the, abroad, to America and to Europe. And people, when they talk about Somalia, they only think about the mayhem, that takes place in Mogadishu, a place like that, and the bickering and the confused conferences, of the warlords. But anyway, the point is that we are glad that people like you, from various fields of life, came to visit Somaliland, saw what we have here, what we have achieved. I recently received, a letter for the first time throughout the ambassador in Djibouti. I received a letter from the State Department. I've written several times, to the State Department, especially last time, I have written to Manfred Albrecht, asking, whether if I came to watch the witch. Well, one of our junior staff, wrote back to me, and I think she thought that she has given me, the highest accolade when she told me that the State Department is happy with the grand reconciliation they have conducted. In my way back, I said that's a very, very unfortunate underrating of the achievements. We have example not only for the other Somalis but for the whole of Africa. The nation building efforts. From the grassroots, we have brought together 3 times over 600 people, who are representing every clan, every shade of opinion, every political persuasion, of religious leaders, women organizations. We have brought them together, and they have been. Foreign Affairs here was one of the most violent debaters, among the group, But eventually we have come to a consensus. There were times, when we thought that the whole thing was breaking up, forming a government, So I think that, to refer, to call that, a minor clan reconciliation, is the understatement of the century, perhaps. But still, that is the impression, that there are few people who have, reported about this, were considered to be biased, and perhaps, telling it all lie, anyway. But for that reason, we are very glad that you can go back to Washington and speak as eyewitnesses of what is Somaliland, that you have seen. So you are very, 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 very welcome, and we are very grateful, for the time you have spent, and the energy and the resources you have spent in coming back here. And we hope that very soon, when we will be coming to Washington and New York, we will make a point of looking you up, and ask you to bear witness to what we are going to say, to Congress, to the Senate, and to the White House and the State Department.
Fortunately, the NGOs can sometimes speak a little bit more freely than the government, and we'll quote you.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
I was telling my colleagues that I had seen some of the video presentations of the Boroma conference, which I know you videoed. Maybe not all of the proceedings, but many days of the proceedings, so that people can listen to
Look at that, I'm sorry. She's talking Somali. I think everybody agrees. I don't know, that's about the war.
daawadayaal waxaan idiin soo gudbinaynaa barnaamij ku saabsan xafladii sagootiga waftigii Maraykanka ahaa. xafladaasi oo uu soo diyaariyay wasiirka arrimaha dibadda Maxamuud Saalax Fagare. dadka waftigaasi lagu sagootinayay ayaa waftigan socdaalkiisu waxay la xiriireysay xogaal noqoshada arrimaha qaxoontiga iyo guud ahaanba nabadda Jamhuuriyadda Somaliland. xafladan lagu sagootinayay waftiga Maraykanka ayaa waxaa ka soo qayb galay xubno fara badan oo wasiirada ka tirsan golaha wasiirada ama xukuumadda. kadib markii xafladaasi lagu qaatay casho sharaf loogu sameeyay hoteelka Hargeysa Club ayaa waxa ay soo bandhigeen fanaaniinta qaranku maadays ku saabsanaa arrintaasi. maadayska fanaaniinta soo bandhigeen ayaa ku saabsanaa xaaladda dalka jamhuuriyadda iyo jamhuuriyadda Somaliland iyo dhaqankiisaba.
What was happening, it will help, it will help, and I think the resources you provide, will be used more effectively,
I believe one of them already has a question. First of all, to my left, this is Bronwyn Lance from the Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. Like myself, she's an NGO representative. You know Ms. Margaret McKelvey from the State Department's Bureau that deals with refugees. Ms. Ann Crowther, she's from our U.S. Senate. She works for one of the senators on the Republican side. And Ms. Stephanie Peters from our House of Representatives. She works for a House member on the Democrat side. So we're a bipartisan, bicameral delegation.
Very good.
And actually, I just wanted to make a comment.
You'll feel good tonight.
I'm sorry, I'm forgetting that you don't know Simone. Simone Wilkins from UNHCR Geneva has very graciously accompanied us.
This is my first trip to Africa, and it won't be my last. And this trip was focused on looking at refugee issues, and I'm very happy that I selected to come to Ethiopia and Somaliland to see repatriation, because I think when you actually see it, we have this phrase that a picture paints 1,000 words. I think being here speaks volumes, and I've learned so much. One thing that I think is very important as we look at repatriation and, as you say, reintegration, is that it's important, your opening comments on there's no problem, they are protected here. That is a very important message that I have received. After you go through fleeing, I cannot imagine, the decision or trying to get the information and the comfort of security to come back. And so the peace that I felt here, it is a message, and it's opened a window to me, and a message that I would take back to my congressman. I work on the Judiciary Committee, which particularly deals with refugee numbers for resettlement. At the same time, members of Congress work on, all issues and vote on different bills for foreign relations and, also UN funding and those type of issues. And also working with our State Department. So I have really gotten an education, and more importantly, the warmth that I felt from the Somaliland people, Ethiopian people, on handling these refugee issues in the past and working in this final repatriation, reintegration phase. I just want to tell you I
do that, and also I hope that the State Department won't fall against you. The fact that you have called us Somaliland. But we are very glad. I mean, this is the sort of thing we were really thirsty for. We have been ostracized, by the international presses. The news of Somaliland and what is happening here have not been related at all, to the abroad, to America and to Europe. And people, when they talk about Somalia, they only think about the mayhem, that takes place in Mogadishu, a place like that, and the bickering and the confused conferences, of the warlords. But anyway, the point is that we are glad that people like you, from various fields of life, came to visit Somaliland, saw what we have here, what we have achieved. I recently received, a letter for the first time throughout the ambassador in Djibouti. I received a letter from the State Department. I've written several times, to the State Department, especially last time, I have written to the man Alfred, asking, if I came to Washington with him. Well, one of the junior staff, wrote back to me, and I think she thought that she has given me, the highest accolade when she told me that the State Department is happy with the grand reconciliation they have conducted. In my way back, I said that's a very, very unfortunate underrating of the achievements. We have example not only for the other Somalis but for the whole of Africa. The nation building efforts. From the grassroots, we have brought together 3 times. Over 600 people, who are representing every clan, every shade of opinion, every political persuasion, of religious leaders, women organizations. We have brought them together, and they have been. Foreign Affairs here was one of the most violent debaters, among the group, But eventually we have come to a consensus. There were times, when we thought that the whole thing was breaking up, forming a government, So I think that, to refer, to call that, a minor clan reconciliation, is the understatement of the century, perhaps. But still, that is the impression, that there are few people who have, reported about this, were considered to be biased, and perhaps, telling it all lie, anyway. But for that reason, we are very glad that you can go back to Washington and speak as eyewitnesses of what is Somaliland, that you have seen. So you are very, 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 very welcome, and we are very grateful, for the time you have spent, and the energy and the resources you have spent in coming back here. And we hope that very soon, when we will be coming to Washington and New York, we will make a point of looking you up, and ask you to bear witness to what we are going to say, Congress, to the Senate, and to the White House and the State Department.
Fortunately, the NGOs can sometimes speak a little bit more freely than the government, and we'll quote you.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
I was telling my colleagues that I had seen some of the video presentations of the Boroma conference,
Yeah.
which I know you videoed, maybe not all of the proceedings, but many days of the
Yeah.
proceedings so that people listen to them.
So we'll go to the Look at that, you know,
I'm sorry.
She's so Somali. I think everybody agrees.
In this area?
I don't know after the war.
Yeah.